Converted man here?
It's the converted man.
Converted man here.
Hi, my name is Ronnie Ramos, and if you're watching this video, you typed in what proof is there that God exists. I'm going to take about a minute and a half to speak on this subject, and I'm going to try to keep it simple. What proof is there that God exists? Well, for all of you educated people, for all of you uneducated people, for all of you people that are searching, anybody can say anything about the proof of God. You can say that there's intelligent design. You can say that intuitively that a greater being than ourselves had to have created this myriad of different creatures and laws that govern our world. To deny that fact would be to deny that we even exist, and we know that we exist because...
I would deny the fact that people can say anything that they want about God. Yeah, you can make up anything about anything that you want. And what's your point? You said that there was going to be proof for God. So how is saying, well, anyone can say anything that they want about God and no one would deny that? How is any of that proof? It's not. I mean, you're commenting on something that I don't think anybody would disagree with in the first place. So I'm just waiting for your proof here, but you're going off on a red herring. So I don't know where you're taking us. So let's see what your proof is.
You know, most of us agree with the saying that I think, therefore I am, so that you know that on some level that you exist and the world around you exists, and somebody must have come up with it.
Whoa, wait a minute here. So you weren't saying that no one would deny the idea that people can say anything about God. You were actually equivocating, and you meant to say, or you were implying that nobody would deny that there's all these things that we can look around and see stuff, and that means God. What? That's your argument. Look around and you'll see God. That's not proof of anything other than your own personal incredulity and appeal to and from ignorance, but maybe you have actual proof at some point here?
You know, we didn't. We can't make ourselves except biologically, and even then we have no control for the most part on what type of person and how that is, even though we're working on that. But proofs. Look around you. Look at the world. Look at other people. Look at the beauty of creation.
Look right. Now look up. Now look down. Look over there. Look under that rock. What about the ugliness of creation? I don't often hear apologetics, or whatever this guy is, saying, hey, look at all the ugly things and all the pain and suffering. Well, look at it. How else do you explain it? But God exists. Blah, 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 blah. It's always the positive stuff, right? Look around and you'll just see God somehow. Is not proof of anything at all whatsoever. But he's not quite done yet, because he's not just arguing for any God. No. If you look around hard enough, you'll see that
God came down to earth in the form of man and the person of Jesus Christ. You know?
Okay, so yeah, he didn't prove anything to anybody other than himself. So we've got nothing here. But there's a Muslim girl I found on YouTube telling us that she knows that there's a God. Of course, the God that she knows about is Allah, and not Jesus Christ. But she just got finished watching this video that made her cry about a kid being hungry. So I'm just going to skip through all of that and get to the part where she tells us how she knows God exists.
On a side note, which came to my head just before I thought I'd record myself, just my reaction to this, is when people say, live your life, man. People who don't believe in God. People who do not believe in God, they say, just live a little, man, drink, smoke, take crack, cocaine, live your life. You only live once, YOLO, right? I think of it this way, right? I've thought of it this way. These people say live your life because they don't believe there's a God out there. They believe you come to this world, you live this life, you go to work, you make earnings, you have a car, you may have a family, a girlfriend, kids, you have a house, pay mortgage, maybe rent, whatever the weather. You've got all of it. And then you just die. So what then? You're just dead.
Alright, so she's got a bunch of friends that she's calling atheists, and she's strawmanning all atheists that are her friends that have told her, just chill out and have some fun. And she doesn't like that because she doesn't want to have fun with them, so they're now atheists even if they weren't. That's what I'm guessing is going on here, because something motivated her to think that all atheists are telling her to go out and do illegal narcotics, do other types of drugs, and just live her life. Well, yes, just live your life, but no to the illegal narcotics as well as smoking and drinking alcohol, at least drinking in excess. If you're going to drink at all, be very moderate in it, and I would say red wine after meal perhaps is better than drinking beer. But I would advise against all of those things because that shortens your lifespan, and it's better to have a longer lifespan in my view than a shorter one. But if you want to do those things, you can do those things. Just know what the consequences are going to be and assume that you're going to get those consequences. So, in regards to crack or cocaine or crack cocaine, know what all the side effects are and know that you will be caught and go to jail, and assume that all of that is going to happen to you. And if you're willing to do all of those things, that is to say you're going to have all the negatives and maybe all the positives as well, but you're definitely going to have all the negatives, and you're definitely going to go to jail, and you're definitely going to have to recover from it and maybe even be addicted to it for the rest of your life, and you're willing to flush your life down the drain to do that, fine. Do it. I can't stop you. I would advise you not to, but if you understand the consequences and you say, yeah, I'm going to screw up my life because I can, then the only one that can stop you is you, and then you have to eventually dig yourself out of that hole, and if you don't, well, then you don't. You'll probably die very quickly at a very young age. Next point, if death is just death, then that is what reality is, and there's nothing that you and I can do about it. And that's all there is to it. Suck it up and live with reality rather than pretend that it's not that way. Okay? The fact is that you started this video crying over a child who was going hungry and would have taken just bread as something to eat, and that really upset you. And that became this huge tangent into, yeah, but God gave you all these wonderful things in life, blah, blah, blah. Well, what about that kid? That kid didn't get all these wonderful things in life, did he? No, he didn't. So, put yourself in the position of that kid who has been born starving and might even die starving. Or, well, maybe they fed him, but all the other kids that are out there that are starving to death and have been born starving and are going to die starving. And their mothers are starving. And their fathers are not even around anymore, so I don't know what's going on with them. But nonetheless, very few, if any of them, are going to survive. What sort of sadistic, twisted God brings into and or allows that person to come into existence knowing full well that their whole life is going to be spent being hungry. They're not going to have any time to think about if there's a God or not. They're too busy focused on survival and being hungry. Starving is not fun. If you want to find that out for yourself, fast a few weeks and, be careful when you do it. Get supervision from, say, a doctor or what have you. Drink plenty of liquids, which is all things that those starving people don't have access to. So, you already have an advantage that they don't, and you're really, even though you'll learn what it's like to feel like you're starving, you won't really learn what it's like to suffer the way that they suffer. And putting yourself in the position of what they go through could get you literally killed. You could wind up starving and dehydrating yourself to death. So, step back a little bit from your stupid ideas about, if death is the end, then that's it. Wow, wham, wham. Because they are stupid. Let me get that straight with you. Okay? And the reason why they're stupid is because it's nothing more than an appeal to consequence. That's all it is. Well, if that's how reality is, then that's really bad and it upsets me. So that can't possibly be how reality really is. And I'm going to save you the rest of this from having to deal with the rest of this video and just tell you that she makes this point over and over and over again, and basically it comes down to that if she's right, she has everything to gain and nothing to lose because she won't even know that she was wrong when she's dead, which is trivially true. Yeah, you didn't know that you wasted your entire life on this bull, and if you don't care about the truth and you only care about what you believe to be true, then yeah, there's nothing stopping you from not having fun and not doing X, Y, and Z because those things are prohibited by your holy book. By the way, shouldn't you be wearing something around your face? Isn't that somewhere in your holy book as well? I don't know. I'm not familiar with the Quran, so you'll have to tell me. But she says she's a good Muslim, so I'll just assume that she knows what she's doing and that she totally doesn't have to wear all that stuff, even though she's a woman, and that's totally in the Quran. But that's just that's the silly parts of the Quran. We don't have to do that anymore because reasons, you see. Yeah. But anyway, so if you don't care about the truth and you only care about your beliefs, then what she says makes perfect sense. When you die, you won't know that you were wrong. That's true. That's absolutely true. The best of our knowledge of how the brain works and what consciousness is, which is directly linked to your brain and your brain's functionality, if that stops, you stop, and that's it. So yes, if you only care about what you believe, then just believe whatever the belief you want. Which also means that your friends that want to do whatever it is that they're doing are free to do whatever it is that they want to do. Because they believe that they have this one life to live, and that's what they're pursuing. Now, I don't think that you should go to excess in anything, because that shortens your lifespan. But there's nothing to prevent you if you want to do that. And if you want to live fast and die young, that's up to you. If you want to moderate your intake of things like alcohol or drugs of any sort, but you still want to experience those things, just know what the consequences are and be ready for said consequences. Assume that those consequences will be reality and say, yes, I really am going to go do this even though I know that that will be the consequence. Okay? But maybe just get your head out of your rear end and stop thinking so much about the end of your life and think instead about that poor child that you were crying about earlier in the video and what sort of life that person has. And whether there's a God or not, what are you doing about it?
Whereas me, as a Muslim person, I can say I didn't do all these things, or maybe some, which I highly regret, and God is all forgiven, which is the most important thing, and hopefully I can overcome everything that I've done, and I can, I can become a better Muslim myself, and in the end up going to Jannah.
Complex! Oh, I've done all these bad things, but God is all forgiving. Well, wait a minute, though. If God's all forgiving, then you can do whatever the bleep you want, like your friends are telling you, and then just get forgiven later. But what's really sinister about this, that's similar to Christianity, is that you really don't know for sure that you've done enough to be saved. You really just don't know for sure that you're going to find yourself in the right place. You just really have to hope that you've pleased God by doing X, Y, and Z, or by not doing X, Y, and Z. And there's no way to know until you're dead, which then you have to find out if you're right. But if you're wrong, and it was the Christian God, then you're still screwed anyways. So then what? And what about that kid that you were crying about earlier, who probably doesn't have any beliefs at all regarding God, and just dies? Well, they didn't get a chance to do anything good. They might have done bad things, I don't know. What's Allah, or Yahweh, or God, going to do to them? Well, you weren't Muslim, so that's it. And they didn't believe, they didn't do the right things, so they're screwed, right? Right? So not only did they have a life that was screwed up here, but they also get screwed in the afterlife. Yeah, that's a fair system. But see, the fairness of a system does not equal that the system isn't true. Just like when you're dead might not be fair, but that's just the way it is, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Which is heaven in English. But if I don't, then I'll just die, right? As you all say. Because you live, and then you just die because there's no God apparent to you guys who don't believe in God. But there must be a God. There really must be. If you really think about it, if there wasn't a God, then what's the point of life if you're just going to die?
To God, for her, there's no point in life. Is it really, though, the statement, if it isn't your particular God, then there's no point in life? Or is any God, just any old God will do? Because you are aware that there are certain concepts of God where the God exists, but the afterlife doesn't exist. Are you also aware that there are some concepts of death, like in Hinduism, where you don't exist as you anymore? You lose your consciousness into the whole of nirvana. So even though that there's multitudes of gods, you stop existing, and you then join the rest of God. So you still don't even know that that was true because you don't exist anymore. So there's concepts like that where there's a God and an afterlife, but the you is still not there. But I guess if that's true, then life is meaningless. But yet somehow the Hindus have found meaning in that. For the atheist, for the skeptic, for the non-believer, not only do I not believe in a God, I don't also believe in any sort of afterlife. But yet, there's still plenty of meaning to be found in my own personal life, as well as the life of others. It's all subjective, but it's meaning nonetheless because I attribute meaning to it. The objective meaning would be just to produce offspring, to propagate life. That's the biological objective meaning. That's it. That's all we can derive from logic and science. Everything else is up to you. Every single day, I get to decide that the point of my life is something different than it was yesterday if I want to do that. Every second I can do that if I wanted to. But the thing is, the counterexample to your pathetic idea that life has no meaning is all the atheists on the internet and on YouTube that have plenty of meaning in their life without God. And I think you're just ignoring them, and you're looking at your friends who you call atheists and thinking that, oh, they just want to have a good time, they just want to do these things. And you don't have to do that even if you don't believe in a God. You can do or not do whatever you want in life. There's consequences for whatever you're going to do or not do. And yes, you're very privileged, as is anybody that's able to make a video and put it on YouTube. We are way more privileged than the child that you were crying about. Did you prove that there was a God? No. You didn't prove your particular God, nor did you prove God in general, other than just say, there has to be a God! There just has to! That doesn't mean that there has to. It just means you really, really, really want it to be true. But you might be really, really, really wrong. But if you care about the truth, you will look for the truth. If you care about belief, you won't. And according to you, because of your appeal to consequence, since when you're dead, and that's it, and woe is me, oh no, then there's no point in life, yeah, all that might be true. And your point is that if that's true, then you might as well believe in whatever you want anyways. Way to care about reality. And what are you doing, by the way, about kids like that starving kid? Because whether there's a God or not, God is not helping that starving kid. Which brings me to my last point, which isn't about your video, but about what's below your video in the video description, which sickens me to no extent. God let the child live longer. Without God, life would not go on. You are just wrong. Just twisted in the head. God allows pain and suffering and prolongs life, and that's good? What is wrong with you? Seriously. But let's take these two videos side by side, which is why I did this. You have look around and there's God, and by the way, it's this specific God that I mentioned. And if death is dead, then it's Allah, obviously, you know. So you got one saying, look around, you'll see that it's Jesus. One saying that if death just means you're dead, you might as well believe whatever you want. And I'll just believe in Allah because reasons that I won't explain in this video, but that just has to be true. It just has to be. It just has to be true. Neither one of these videos give us any reason to think that either one of these gods were true. Both of these gods could be false. And that's more likely than either of these gods being true, especially in light of the fact that we don't have any empirical evidence, we don't have any tests to run, and we don't have any logically coherent argument. And unless and until we do have a logically coherent argument, we must continue to be skeptical of their conclusions. Wait a minute. Where the bleep was my logical fallacy counter this whole time? Oh yeah, that's right. Soon, coming to this channel, the most epic and insane video analysis of all time. Thanks to this handsome atheist guy that calls himself Thor, I'll be analyzing a hour-plus long video thing that I'm making into a series, and it's pretty much all his fault. But he'll be doing the science as I count up the logical fallacies, and then lose my mind as I do so. That's coming soon!